The morning mist hung thick over the Pacific Northwest forest when Doctor first detected the anomaly. Her remote research station, hidden deep in the Olympic Mountains, had been monitoring electromagnetic signatures for 3 years without a single unusual reading. Today, her equipment screamed warnings that made no scientific sense. "Impossible," she whispered, staring at readings that suggested a massive energy signature moving through the forest at impossible speeds. The signature wasn't following any known physics laws, appearing and disappearing in patterns that explanation. 12 light-years away, Admiral of the Hegemony Fleet received reports that made his forearms tremble with anticipation. The primitive planet called Earth had finally produced something interesting. For centuries, his species had monitored countless worlds, waiting for signs of true intelligence worth challenging. "Sir, the energy readings are unlike anything his science officer reported. "Whatever created this signature possesses technology far beyond what our scouts reported about human civilization." His mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The hegemony had grown bored with easy conquests. Every species they encountered either surrendered immediately or fell within days. But these readings suggested something different entirely. "Prepare the challenge protocol," commanded. "If this planet harbors worthy opponents, they deserve to face our finest." The challenge protocol was sacred among the hegemony. When a species demonstrated sufficient advancement, they received one chance to prove themselves in combat. Winners earned respect and autonomy. Losers became servants. No species had ever won. Back on Earth, frantically calibrated her instruments. The energy signature had stopped moving, but her readings showed it was growing stronger. Something massive was happening in the deep forest, something that violated every principle of known science. Her satellite phone buzzed. "Doctor, this is Colonel Martinez, NORAD. We need you to evacuate immediately. Our systems are detecting massive electromagnetic interference centered on your position." "Colonel, I'm recording phenomena that could revolutionize our understanding of physics. I can't leave now." "Doctor, this isn't a request. Whatever's out there just caught the attention of something in space, something big." His blood ran cold as she processed his words. "Space?" She looked at her readings again, this time noticing patterns she'd missed. The energy signature wasn't random, it was responding to something, communicating. In the deepest part of the forest, where ancient trees blocked most sunlight, something stirred that had slept for. The creature stood 12 feet tall, covered in dark fur that seemed to absorb light itself. Its eyes held intelligence that predated human civilization by eons. The being humans called Bigfoot was actually something far more significant. It was a guardian, left behind by an ancient race that had visited Earth long before humans developed agriculture. Its purpose was simple: protect this world until its inhabitants proved ready for the greater galaxy. The Guardian felt the challenge transmission penetrating Earth's atmosphere. The message was clear and brutal. The hegemony demanded Earth's strongest warriors face them in combat. The winner would claim dominion over the entire planet. For thousands of years, the Guardian had waited. It had watched humans develop from primitive tribes to space-faring civilization. It had seen their wars, their progress, their potential. Now, the test had finally arrived. The Guardian reached out with senses beyond human comprehension, touching the minds of sleeping soldiers across the globe. It needed the best humanity could offer, warriors who possessed not just skill, but the indefinable quality that separated survivors from heroes. In military bases, from fort to training facilities, from SAS barracks to Navy SEAL compounds, elite soldiers began experiencing the same vivid dream. They saw themselves standing in an alien arena, facing impossible odds, with Earth's future hanging in the balance. Master Sergeant Jake woke with a gasp in his Delta Force quarters. The dream had been so real he could still smell the metallic air of the alien ship. He touched his chest where dream weapons had struck, feeling phantom pain from wounds that didn't exist. Across the world, Captain of Japan's Special Forces group jolted awake, her hand reaching for weapons that weren't there. The dream had shown her things that couldn't be real: spaceships, alien technology, and a desperate need for Earth's defenders. In Russia, Senior Lieutenant sat up in his bunk, mind racing. The dream had felt like a briefing, complete with tactical assessments and mission parameters. But the enemy described was impossible: aliens seeking to enslave humanity through ritual combat. The Guardian selection process was precise. It sought warriors who had proven themselves in actual combat, who had made impossible decisions under extreme pressure. But more than skill, it needed humans who possessed something the galaxy had never seen: the ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome regardless of odds. Instruments detected another energy spike, this one so powerful it temporarily blinded her sensors. When they came back online, she saw something that made her question her sanity. A massive shape was descending through the atmosphere, larger than any human construction. The hegemony ship Conquest of Stars entered Earth's atmosphere with ceremonial precision. Admiral wanted the planet's defenders to see what they faced. The ship stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapons that could crack continents. "Begin broadcasting the challenge terms," ordered. "Let them know they have 1 rotation of their planet to produce their champions." The message hit every communication system on Earth simultaneously. Military commanders from every nation received the same impossible transmission. Earth would select 5 champions to face hegemony warriors in single combat. If the humans won 3 of 5 battles, Earth would remain free. If they lost, humanity would serve the hegemony as slaves. President Carter convened an emergency session with military leaders from around the world. The alien ship hung motionless over the Pacific Ocean, its very presence disrupting weather patterns and causing panic in coastal cities. The transmission included detailed scans of our military capabilities, General reported. "They know everything about our weapons, our strategies, our technology. This isn't random. They've been studying us." "What about their demands?" President Carter asked. "5 champions for single combat. How do we even begin to select candidates?" "Sir, we've been receiving reports from Special Forces units worldwide," Colonel Martinez interjected. "Elite soldiers from multiple countries all experienced the same dream last night. They're reporting detailed knowledge of alien combat protocols they should have no way of knowing." The Guardian's influence extended beyond just selection. It was preparing its chosen warriors, downloading necessary knowledge directly into their minds. The humans would face technology beyond their understanding, but they wouldn't face it blind. Jake found himself at Joint Base within hours of the dream, along with 4 other soldiers he'd never met but somehow recognized. Captain carried herself with the fluid grace of a master martial artist. Lieutenant possessed the cold efficiency of a veteran sniper. Sergeant Maria Santos from the Brazilian Special Forces radiated the tactical awareness of urban warfare. Corporal Tommy White Eagle, a Native American ranger, moved with the silent confidence of natural hunter. "You all had the dream too," Jake stated. "It wasn't a question." "The knowledge is still there," replied quietly. "I know things about their weapons, their fighting styles, their weaknesses, but I don't understand how." "Maybe understanding isn't what matters," observed. "Maybe what matters is whether we can use what we've been given." Its research station had become the epicenter of the most important scientific discovery in human history. The energy signature that had started everything was moving again, heading toward the coast where the alien ship waited. Her instruments tracked something massive passing through the forest, something that registered on her sensors but remained invisible to satellites. "Doctor, this is Colonel Martinez. We're detecting movement from your position toward the contact zone. Can you confirm what you're seeing?" Watched her screens in amazement as the energy signature moved with purpose through terrain that should have been impossible to navigate at such speed. "Colonel, something is definitely moving toward the ship. Something big enough to register on my instruments but invisible to your satellites. I think it's been here all along." The Guardian emerged from the forest as the sun set over the Pacific. Its massive form cast shadows that seemed to bend light itself. For the first time in thousands of years, it revealed itself to human observation, knowing that the time for hiding had ended. The alien ship's sensors detected the approaching figure, and Admiral received readings that made his 4 hearts skip beats. The energy signature approaching his ship registered power levels beyond anything in hegemony records. This wasn't human technology. This was something else entirely. "Sir, should we raise shields?" his tactical officer asked nervously. "No," replied, his voice filled with anticipation he hadn't felt in decades. "Lower the boarding ramp. Whatever approaches us earned the right to be heard." The Guardian reached the shoreline and stopped, its ancient eyes studying the alien vessel. It had encountered hegemony ships before, in wars fought when Earth's continents were still forming. The species was proud, honorable in their way, but ultimately limited by their own assumptions about strength and weakness. With movements that seemed to bend reality itself, the Guardian stepped onto the water. Each footstep created ripples of energy that made the ocean surface solid enough to support its massive weight. It walked across the waves toward the alien ship, carrying the hopes of a species that didn't even know it existed. Admiral watched through his viewports as the impossible figure approached. In his species' long history, they had never encountered anything like what his sensors were reporting. The being walking across the ocean possessed power signatures that registered off their scales. "Open communications," commanded. "If this entity speaks for Earth, we will hear what it has to say." The Guardian's voice reached every human on the planet simultaneously, speaking in languages they understood while addressing the aliens in their own tongue. "I am the Guardian of this world. I accept your challenge on behalf of humanity. But know this, the warriors you will face have been chosen not for their strength alone, but for something your empire has never encountered." "And what is that, Ancient One?" Admiral asked, his voice carrying across the waves. "Hope," the Guardian replied simply. "The ability to achieve victory when victory is impossible, the capacity to find strength in unity rather than dominance. Your warriors fight for conquest. Ours fight for survival. You will learn the difference." The alien ship's boarding ramp extended toward the Guardian. Tomorrow, Earth's champions would board that vessel and face an enemy they couldn't defeat with conventional weapons. But tonight, for the first time in hegemony history, an admiral wondered if his empire was about to face some of the hegemony ship's interior human architectural understanding. Corridors stretched in impossible directions, with gravity fields that shifted based on the occupants' needs. Admiral led the Guardian through passages that had witnessed the surrender of 1,000 species. "Your champions will have 12 of your planet's hours to prepare," explained as they walked. "They may bring whatever weapons their primitive technology can provide. It matters little. No species has ever defeated a hegemony honor guard in single combat." The Guardian's response rumbled with harmonics that made the ship's bulkheads vibrate. "Your honor guards have never faced humans who fight with nothing left to lose." Inside the ship's observation deck, 5 hegemony warriors waited in meditation. Each stood over 9 feet tall, their bodies enhanced with technology that had conquered entire star systems. General had personally defeated champions from 47 worlds. Commander Vex possessed reflexes enhanced to superhuman levels. War leader Zephyr could process battlefield information faster than most species could think. But the most dangerous was Marshall, who had never lost a single combat in 3 centuries of warfare. His armor contained the sum total of hegemony military advancement, and his weapons could cut through any known material in the galaxy. "Observe the primitives," Marshall spoke to his fellow warriors. "Their dream-touched knowledge will not save them from reality." Back on Earth, the 5 chosen champions stood in a specially constructed facility at Joint Base. Military scientists had worked through the night to understand the knowledge somehow implanted in their minds. The results were disturbing and fascinating in equal measure. "The tactical information in your heads is absolutely accurate," Dr. Sarah reported. "We've every detail we could test against known physics. Somehow, you possess complete intelligence on hegemony weapons, armor systems, and combat protocols." Jake examined the weapons laid out before them. Humanity's most advanced military technology looked primitive compared to the alien equipment they'd seen in shared visions. "Doctor, our equipment won't penetrate their armor. Even our most advanced rounds will bounce off like rubber balls." "That's what makes this interesting," Doctor replied, pulling up holographic displays that showed alien weak points. "The information in your minds includes vulnerabilities that shouldn't exist. Joint weaknesses in their armor, gaps in their shielding, tactical patterns that create openings." Studied the combat data with the focused intensity that had made her Japan's finest strategic analyst. "These aren't random weaknesses. Someone studied hegemony forces for a very long time and found ways to exploit their overconfidence." "The question is who," added grimly, "and whether they're helping us or setting us up for something worse." Tommy White Eagle had remained silent throughout the briefing, his connection to ancestral wisdom telling him things the others couldn't understand. "The knowledge comes from the Guardian. My grandfather told stories about the tall shadow that walked the old forests. It's been waiting for this day." "Waiting for what?" Maria Santos asked, her tactical mind processing information that seemed to arrive from nowhere. "For humans to prove we deserve to survive," Tommy replied simply. The Guardian's conversation with Admiral continued as they moved through the ship's weapon bays. Displays showed the military might of an empire that had never known defeat. Plasma cannons that could vaporize mountains. Armor technology that could withstand direct nuclear strikes. Personal shields that made the wearer nearly invulnerable. "Impressive," the Guardian acknowledged, studying weapons that could crack planets. "But your empire makes the same mistake every dominant species eventually makes." "And what mistake is that, Ancient One?" "You believe that superior technology equals inevitable victory. You've forgotten that the most dangerous opponent is the one who refuses to accept defeat." Admiral's mandibles clicked with what passed for laughter among his species. "Philosophy will not turn primitive weapons into effective tools. Your champions will face our finest warriors in formal combat. Honor demands that strength alone determine the outcome." "Honor," the Guardian mused, the word carrying weight that made the ship's artificial intelligence pause its functions. "An interesting concept from a species that conquers worlds for entertainment." The Admiral's four eyes narrowed dangerously. "We bring order to chaos. We provide structure to primitive societies. The strong lead, the weak follow. This is natural law." "Natural law," the Guardian repeated, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with the ship's quantum structure. "Then you won't mind when your natural law encounters something truly natural." Meanwhile, President Carter received updates that every protocol for first contact scenarios. The alien ship had remained stationary for 6 hours, apparently waiting for formal combat preparations to conclude. Intelligence agencies worldwide were frantically analyzing every detail of the transmission. "Mr. President, we've received additional communications from the entity aboard the alien vessel," Secretary of Defense Williams reported. "It identifies itself as humanity's guardian and claims it's been protecting Earth for thousands of years." "Protecting us from what?" "From premature contact with hostile civilizations. According to the message, Earth has been under surveillance by multiple alien empires. This hegemony represents just one of many threats humanity will eventually face." President Carter absorbed this information with the calm that had guided him through multiple international crises. "And this Guardian believes our champions can win." "The message was quite specific about that, sir. It said humanity possesses something called adaptive resilience, the ability to find solutions in impossible situations. But there's something else." "What?" "The Guardian claims that winning these battles is just the beginning. Defeating the hegemony will announce humanity's presence to the entire galaxy. We'll either gain respect as a warrior species or face extinction as a threat to galactic stability." The 5 champions underwent final preparations that combined cutting-edge human technology with knowledge that shouldn't exist. Military engineers had modified their equipment based on specifications that appeared fully formed in their minds. Jake's assault rifle now fired rounds designed to exploit specific gaps in hegemony armor. The modifications required manufacturing techniques that pushed human technology to its absolute limits. Katana had been reforged with carbon nanotube technology, creating a blade capable of molecular-level cutting. The sword felt familiar in her hands despite being physically impossible just days earlier. Sniper rifle incorporated targeting systems that could track movement faster than human reflexes could follow. The scope displayed information that his conscious mind couldn't process, but his trained instincts understood perfectly. Maria's tactical equipment included devices that could disrupt alien shield systems, using principles that human science was still struggling to understand. Tommy's traditional weapons had been enhanced with materials that honored their spiritual significance, while providing effectiveness against advanced technology. "This feels wrong," Jake admitted as they completed final weapons checks. "We're heading into combat with equipment we barely understand, using knowledge that was somehow implanted in our minds. How do we know we're not being manipulated?" "We don't," replied honestly. "But the alternative is accepting slavery for our entire species. Sometimes the choice isn't between right and wrong, it's between action and surrender." "My grandfather fought in World War II," Tommy added quietly. He told me that in the darkest moments, warriors don't fight for victory. They fight so their children won't have to. The Guardian completed its inspection of the hegemony ship and returned to the boarding area where Admiral waited. The alien commander studied the ancient being with sensors that could analyze matter at the quantum level, but the readings made no sense. Your power signatures indicate capabilities beyond our understanding, admitted. Yet you allow primitives to fight in your place. Why not face our warriors yourself? Because this isn't about my strength, the Guardian explained. This is about humanity earning their place in the galaxy through their own actions. I can protect them, but I cannot grow them. That must come from within. And if they fail, then I will ensure they fail with honor. But Admiral, you should prepare yourself for the possibility that your empire is about to encounter something new. New, we have conquered thousand-year-old civilizations. We have defeated species with technology that seems like magic. What could these humans possess that we haven't seen? The Guardian's ancient eyes held depths that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. They haven't learned to accept limits. Your species, like every empire before it, eventually defined what was possible based on what you had already achieved. Humans define what's possible based on what they need to survive. Doctor continued monitoring energy readings from her research station. The patterns she detected every principle of known physics, but they were becoming more stable, more focused. Something was building toward a moment of incredible significance. Her secure communication link activated. Doctor, this is General. We need you to maintain continuous monitoring throughout the combat trials. Your readings may be the only way we can understand what's really happening. General, I'm detecting energy patterns that suggest the Guardian is somehow connected to the chosen warriors. The readings show a quantum entanglement that shouldn't be possible across those distances. Meaning what, Doctor? Meaning our champions aren't fighting alone. Something is linking them together, sharing their experiences, their knowledge, their determination. They're functioning as a single combat unit despite being physically separated. The 12 hours of preparation time drew to a close. Aboard the hegemony ship, combat arenas were activated for the first time in decades. Each arena was designed to test different aspects of warrior capability: raw strength, tactical intelligence, ranged combat precision, close-quarters skill, and finally, the indefinable quality the hegemony called warrior's heart. Admiral addressed his honor guards with the pride of an empire that had never known defeat. These humans possess limited knowledge of our capabilities. Do not underestimate them, but remember, no primitive species has ever withstood the military might of the hegemony. Today, we add another world to our empire. Marshall activated his combat armor, feeling the familiar surge of power that had made him invincible for 3 centuries. I look forward to facing whatever champion they consider their finest. It has been too long since I encountered an opponent worth remembering. The Guardian stood at the center of the ship's main arena, its massive form somehow both imposing and peaceful. Let the trials begin, it announced in a voice that reached every human on Earth. Today, humanity faces its first test among the stars. Win or lose, you will do so as free people fighting for their future. The first arena activated with a hum of energy that made reality shimmer. Jake stepped through the boarding tube from the human shuttle, his modified weapons feeling both alien and familiar in his hands. Across the arena, General activated armor that had conquered 47 worlds. Begin, Admiral commanded. The first arena materialized around Jake like a nightmare made of energy and metal. The space stretched 300 meters in diameter, with walls that shifted between different terrains: urban rubble, jungle canopy, Arctic wasteland, and desert dunes. General had chosen environmental adaptation as his testing ground. Jake's enhanced vision immediately 17 different cover positions, 43 potential ambush points, and 12 distinct tactical approaches. The knowledge flooded his mind without conscious effort, as if he'd fought in this exact arena thousands of times before. General materialized across the arena in a flash of displaced air. His armor was a masterwork of alien engineering, sleek, predatory, and covered in sensor arrays that tracked movement at the molecular level. The alien warrior stood 12 feet tall, with 4 arms that moved independently and weapons systems integrated into his very skeleton. Primitive spoke through external speakers, his voice carrying casual dismissal. Your species broadcasts emotion before thought. I have already calculated 17 ways to end this combat before you complete your first tactical assessment. Jake didn't respond verbally. Instead, he moved, not with the textbook precision of military training, but with the fluid adaptability that had kept humans alive through ice ages, plagues, and wars that should have destroyed them utterly. His first shot took completely by surprise, not because of its accuracy, but because of its timing. Jake fired while diving behind cover that the alien's sensors had classified as inadequate. The round struck a specific point on shoulder joint, precisely where hegemony armor connected to mobility systems. The bullet didn't penetrate, but it disrupted the joint's power coupling just long enough for Jake to disappear into terrain that his enhanced weapons had temporarily reshaped with microexplosives. "Impossible," muttered, his four eyes scanning for heat signatures that no longer existed. Human technology couldn't produce stealth capabilities this sophisticated. But Jake wasn't using stealth technology. He was using something far more dangerous, improvisation based on intuitive understanding of his enemy's expectations. Aboard the command deck, Admiral watched the tactical display with growing interest. "His movements don't match any combat doctrine in our databases. Sir, our predictive algorithms can't track his tactical patterns," the ship's tactical officer reported. "He's not following any recognized military strategy. His actions appear random, but they consistently exploit gaps in our sensor coverage." The Guardian observed from the arena's center, its ancient presence somehow both watching and participating in the combat. "Your warrior fights as you expect him to," it noted quietly. "Mine fights as circumstances demand." Activated his full sensor suite, flooding the arena with scanning beams that could detect life signs through solid rock. The readings showed Jake's position clearly, crouched behind insufficient cover 60 meters away. The alien warrior armed his primary weapon and fired a plasma burst that could vaporize a tank. The cover exploded in superheated fragments, but Jake wasn't there. "Motion decoy?" Jake's voice came from the arena's communication system. "Learned that from watching you fight on 17 different worlds. Your targeting systems lock onto the strongest heat signature. But what happens when the strongest heat signature is your own weapon's discharge, reflecting off strategically placed metal fragments?" Spun around to find Jake standing where the alien's initial position had been, somehow having crossed 200 meters of open ground without detection. The human held a weapon that shouldn't have been able to harm hegemony armor, but he wasn't aiming its armor. Jake's shot struck the arena's power coupling behind, causing a cascade failure that temporarily disrupted the alien's gravity field stabilizers. For exactly 2.7 seconds, experienced something no hegemony warrior had felt in 3 centuries: loss of perfect environmental control. It was enough. Jake's second shot, fired while struggled with unexpected gravity fluctuations, struck the alien's primary weapon system. The precise targeting caused a feedback loop that overloaded its integrated weapons. "You cannot defeat me with primitive projectiles," declared, drawing a melee weapon that hummed with energy capable of cutting through battleship armor. "Don't need to defeat you," Jake replied calmly. "Just need to prove something." What followed wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. Jake used every surface in the arena. Walls became springboards, obstacles became weapons, and environmental hazards became tactical advantages. He fought like humanity had always fought, using intelligence to overcome superior force, adapting faster than his opponent could adjust. Possessed strength that could crush steel, reflexes enhanced beyond biological limits, and weapons technology that represented the pinnacle of galactic military advancement. But he had never faced an opponent who treated impossible odds as merely another tactical problem to solve. The turning point came when Jake did something that violated every principle of combat logic. Instead of avoiding its most powerful attack, he deliberately triggered it while positioned next to the arena's power grid. The resulting explosion should have killed both fighters. Instead, Jake used the electromagnetic pulse to temporarily blind sensors while the human's equipment, designed to operate in electronic warfare environments, continued functioning. In the 60-second window of sensor blindness, Jake accomplished something that would become legendary among human forces. He disabled a hegemony honor guard using nothing but tactical intelligence and absolute refusal to accept defeat. When sensors cleared, he found himself immobilized by his own armor's safety systems. Jake had somehow triggered emergency containment protocols that locked suit in position until medical teams could verify his condition. "I yield," announced, his voice carrying astonishment rather than anger. "In 3 centuries of combat, no opponent has ever used my own systems against me." Admiral stared at the tactical displays in stunned silence. General, victor of 47 worlds, trainer of 100 honor guards, had been defeated by a primitive human using equipment that barely qualified as military grade by hegemony standards. "How demanded?" "He fought like prey that refuses to die," the Guardian replied. "Your warriors train to dominate, humans train to survive. The difference is more significant than you realized." The second arena activated before the shock of the first defeat could fully register. Stepped into a space designed for close-quarters combat, a maze of interconnected chambers where superior reach and strength would determine victory. Commander Vex waited in the arena's center, her reptilian form coiled with enhanced reflexes that could process information at superhuman speeds. Her natural advantages were staggering: 4 arms, a prehensile tail, and combat claws that could tear through steel like paper. "Your predecessor succeeded through trickery," Vex hissed through her translator. "Close combat allows no deception. Here the stronger warrior survives." Drew her modified katana with movements that seemed to bend light itself. The blade hummed with molecular edge technology, but more importantly, it carried the spiritual weight of samurai tradition adapted for galactic warfare. "Strength alone has never determined victory," replied quietly. "A sword's power comes not from its edge, but from the spirit of the one who wields it." Vex attacked with speed that blurred the boundaries of physics. Her claws moved faster than human reflexes could track, creating strike patterns that covered every possible escape route. By every tactical assessment, should have died in the first 3 seconds of combat. Instead, something impossible happened. Moved not to avoid Vex's attacks, but to redirect them. Each claw strike that should have been lethal became part of a flowing pattern that turned Vex's own momentum against her. The alien warrior possessed reflexes enhanced to superhuman levels, but fought with something beyond reflexes. She moved with the intuitive understanding that came from generations of martial artists who had learned to find harmony within conflict. "This is not possible," Vex snarled as her attacks consistently failed to connect. "Your physical capabilities are inadequate for these maneuvers." "Physical capability is only half of combat," replied, her sword deflecting strikes that should have shattered the blade. "The other half is understanding that your opponent's strength can become your weapon." What followed was a demonstration of combat philosophy that redefined hegemony understanding of warfare. Didn't try to overpower Vex. Instead, she made Vex's power work against itself. Every claw strike was redirected into vulnerable points on Vex's own armor. Every powerful lunge became leverage for throws that used the alien's momentum to create devastating impacts. The modified katana found gaps in defenses not through brute force, but through precise understanding of how Vex's enhanced reflexes created predictable patterns. The decisive moment came when Vex, frustrated by her inability to land a killing blow, committed to an attack powerful enough to shatter the arena's reinforced flooring. Stepped inside the strike's range, using Vex's own claws to trigger pressure points that temporarily paralyzed the alien's enhanced nervous system. Vex collapsed, not from injury, but from the systematic shutdown of her cybernetic enhancement systems. Had somehow used the alien's own technology to defeat her. "I yield," Vex whispered, her voice filled with something approaching awe. "You fight as if combat itself guides your movements." "Combat doesn't guide me," corrected gently. "I guide combat. That's what you never understood about humans." The third arena activated with ominous energy signatures that made the ship's hull vibrate. Stepped into a space designed for ranged combat, a complex 3-dimensional environment where precision and patience would determine survival. War leader Zephyr occupied a position 3 kilometers away, his weapons systems capable of tracking and eliminating targets beyond the horizon. His enhancement package included targeting computers that could calculate ballistic trajectories through 11-dimensional space. "Range advantage to the superior marksman," Zephyr announced through the arena's communication system. Your primitive projectile weapons cannot compete with hegemony precision targeting. Settled into position with the calm patience that had made him legendary among Special Forces snipers. His modified rifle incorporated targeting technology that pushed human engineering to its absolute limits. But more importantly, it carried the accumulated wisdom of every human who had ever faced impossible odds with nothing but skill and determination. Precision, spoke quietly into his communicator, is not about superior technology. It is about understanding that every shot must count because there may not be another. What followed was a demonstration of human marksmanship that redefined the possibilities of projectile warfare. His first shot didn't target Zephyr directly. Instead, it struck a specific point on the arena's structure that caused a cascade failure in the alien's sensor network. Zephyr's targeting computers suddenly faced interference patterns they couldn't analyze. The human's shot had somehow triggered resonance frequencies that created blind spots in the most advanced sensor suite in the galaxy. Impossible, Zephyr muttered, switching to backup targeting systems. But second shot eliminated those as well, using ricochet patterns that seemed to violate ballistic physics. The duel became a lesson in the difference between technological superiority and adaptive intelligence. Zephyr possessed weapons that could eliminate targets on other planets, but fought with something more dangerous, the understanding that every disadvantage could become an advantage with sufficient creativity. Shots consistently achieved impossible results not through superior technology, but through intuitive understanding of how complex systems could be disrupted by precisely applied force. He used the arena's own structure as part of his weapon system, creating ricochet patterns that turned every surface into potential ammunition. The decisive shot came when did something that violated every principle of sniper tactics. Instead of targeting Zephyr directly, he fired at empty space 60 meters behind his own position. The bullet struck a specific point on the arena's power grid, causing an electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disabled all electronic systems. In the 40-second window of technological blindness that followed, achieved something unprecedented in galactic military history. Using nothing but mechanical sights and intuitive understanding of ballistic physics, he placed a single shot that penetrated Zephyr's armor at its weakest point, a gap that existed for exactly 0.3 seconds when the alien warrior turned to compensate for sensor failure. Medical emergency in Arena 3, the ship's computer announced as Zephyr's life support systems activated. I yield, Zephyr transmitted weakly. In 4 centuries of warfare, no opponent has ever defeated hegemony targeting technology using primitive projectile weapons. Admiral watched the impossible unfold with something approaching panic. 3 of his finest honor guards had been defeated by humans using equipment that barely qualified as weapons by galactic standards. This cannot be happening, he muttered, his 4 hands trembling with disbelief. Your empire made a fundamental error, the Guardian observed calmly. You assumed that technological superiority guarantees tactical dominance, but technology is merely a tool. The warrior wielding the tool determines its effectiveness. 2 arenas remained, and Marshall, the hegemony's finest warrior, undefeated in 3 centuries, was beginning to understand that he faced an enemy unlike anything the galaxy had ever produced. The 4th arena materialized with energy patterns that made reality itself seem unstable. Maria Santos stepped into a space designed to test something the hegemony called tactical supremacy, the ability to control a fluid battlefield where conditions changed faster than conscious thought could process. War Captain Nexus waited in the arena's center, his form shifting between solid matter and energy fields. His enhancement package was the most advanced in the hegemony fleet, quantum processing capabilities that allowed him to exist in multiple tactical timelines simultaneously. Your species fights well individually, Nexus acknowledged, his voice carrying harmonics that suggested multiple conversations happening at once. But tactical supremacy requires thinking beyond linear time. I process battlefield information across 17 different probability matrices. You cannot compete with quantum consciousness. Maria activated her tactical enhancement package, feeling systems come online that human engineers had built based on specifications that appeared in her mind without explanation. Her equipment didn't provide quantum processing. Instead, It enhanced something far more fundamental. Quantum consciousness, Maria replied thoughtfully, assumes that all possibilities can be calculated. But what happens when someone creates possibilities that don't exist until they're needed? The arena shifted into active configuration, creating a battlefield that changed its fundamental properties every 30 seconds. Gravity fields rotated in impossible directions. Solid walls became energy barriers. Weapons platforms materialized and vanished according to patterns that causality. Nexus moved through the shifting environment like a force of nature, his quantum consciousness allowing him to exist in multiple tactical positions simultaneously. He could attack from several directions at once while defending positions that might become relevant in 3 different probability timelines. By every rational assessment, Maria faced an impossible opponent. Nexus could predict her movements before she made them, counter her tactics before she implemented them, and eliminate her from multiple dimensional perspectives that human minds couldn't even comprehend. But Maria possessed something that quantum consciousness couldn't process: the human ability to improvise solutions that didn't exist until the moment they were needed. Her first action violated every principle of tactical logic. Instead of trying to control the battlefield, she deliberately triggered its most chaotic configuration. Every safety protocol in the arena activated simultaneously, creating conditions that even Nexus's quantum processing couldn't predict. Madness, Nexus transmitted across multiple probability streams. You have eliminated all tactical advantages for both combatants. Exactly, Maria replied, moving through chaos with the intuitive grace that had kept humans alive through disasters that should have destroyed their species. Now we're both operating in unknown territory. The difference is I'm comfortable here. What followed was a demonstration of human adaptability that redefined galactic understanding of tactical capability. Nexus could process information across 17 probability matrices, but Maria operated in the space between possibilities, the realm where creative solutions emerged from circumstances that quantum consciousness classified as impossible. She used the arena's chaos as a weapon, triggering cascade failures that created temporary advantages that existed for exactly as long as she needed them. Her tactics didn't follow any recognizable pattern because they were invented in real time, based on conditions that couldn't be predicted. Nexus found himself fighting an opponent who treated tactical impossibility as merely another resource to exploit. Every time his quantum consciousness calculated optimal responses, Maria had already moved to a tactical position that shouldn't have been accessible. The decisive moment came when Maria did something that broke Nexus's processing capabilities entirely. She triggered every arena system simultaneously while positioning herself in a location that quantum mechanics defined as impossible, existing in multiple tactical positions without quantum enhancement technology. How, Nexus demanded, his form flickering between dimensions as his consciousness struggled to process what it was observing. Human children learn this early, Maria explained, her voice calm despite standing in the center of a tactical maelstrom that was rearranging space-time. When the rules of the game don't work, you change the game. Maria's final action collapsed Nexus's quantum consciousness into a single timeline, the one where a human soldier had used chaos itself as a tactical weapon to defeat technology that shouldn't have been vulnerable to improvisation. I yield, Nexus whispered, his form solidifying into baseline reality for the first time in decades. You have achieved tactical supremacy using principles that quantum mechanics classify as impossible. Admiral stared at displays showing 4 consecutive defeats that challenged everything the hegemony understood about warfare. His finest honor guards, warriors who had conquered entire star systems, had been systematically defeated by primitives using equipment that barely qualified as military technology. This cannot be happening, he repeated, his voice carrying the strain of an empire confronting the impossible. 4 victories, the Guardian observed, its ancient voice carrying satisfaction that resonated through the ship's quantum structure. Your champions have proven themselves worthy of galactic respect. 1 battle remains, replied desperately. Marshall has never been defeated. 3 centuries of perfect victory across 40 star systems. He will restore hegemony honor. Perhaps, the Guardian acknowledged. Or perhaps your empire will learn that honor sometimes requires accepting when you have encountered something superior. The final arena activated with energy signatures that made the ship's artificial intelligence temporarily suspend non-essential functions. This was the testing ground for Warrior's Heart, the indefinable quality that separated true champions from merely skilled fighters. Tommy White Eagle stepped into a space that description. The arena existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, with conditions that changed based on the spiritual state of the combatants. Here, technology mattered less than the fundamental character of the warriors involved. Marshall materialized across the dimensional battlefield, his form radiating power that had conquered civilizations. His armor contained 3 centuries of military advancement, and his weapons could eliminate threats across galactic distances. But more than technology, possessed something the hegemony called absolute will, the unshakable conviction that victory was not just possible, but inevitable. Primitive spoke with the authority of Empire Incarnate. Your species has achieved temporary victories through trickery and desperation, but this arena tests something beyond tactics. Here, the stronger spirit claims dominion over reality itself. Tommy activated equipment that combined cutting-edge human technology with spiritual traditions that predated recorded history. His weapons carried the blessings of ancestors who had fought impossible battles with nothing but courage, and the conviction that some things were worth dying to protect. "Spirit," Tommy replied quietly, his voice carrying harmonics that made the dimensional arena resonate with frequency patterns older than galactic civilization. An interesting concept from someone who fights for conquest rather than protection. The arena responded to their presence by manifesting challenges that tested the fundamental nature of their warrior spirits. Obstacles appeared that couldn't be overcome through strength alone. They required understanding of why the battle mattered more than personal survival. Attacked with power that could reshape reality itself, his weapons struck with force that eliminated matter at the quantum level. His armor provided protection against threats that existed across multiple dimensions. By every measurable standard, Tommy faced an opponent who transcended mortal limitations. But Tommy possessed something that transcended measurement. The warrior's heart that came from fighting not for personal glory, but for the survival of everything he loved. The battle that followed existed beyond normal spacetime, with reality itself serving as the battlefield. Attacks struck with cosmic force, but Tommy moved with the fluid grace of wind across water, earth beneath growing things, fire that warms without destroying. "You cannot defeat absolute power with primitive spirituality," declared, his weapons carving tears in dimensional fabric itself. "Power without purpose is just destruction," Tommy replied, his movements creating harmony patterns that began to stabilize the dimensional chaos attacks were generating. What followed was a demonstration of the difference between conquest and protection. Fought with the accumulated might of an empire that had never known defeat, but Tommy fought with something more fundamental, the understanding that true strength comes from knowing what you're fighting to preserve. The arena began responding to their conflict by manifesting the deepest nature of their motivations. Attacks created expanding zones of domination where his will imposed order through force. Tommy's responses generated spaces where natural harmony flourished without external control. The turning point came when unleashed his ultimate weapon, a reality modifier that could impose his will on the fundamental structure of existence itself. The attack should have eliminated Tommy from all possible timelines simultaneously. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Tommy's response wasn't an attack, it was an invitation. He opened his warrior's heart completely, allowing to experience something the hegemony had never encountered, the pure spiritual energy of someone fighting to protect rather than conquer. For the first time in 3 centuries, Marshall felt what it meant to care more about others' survival than personal victory. The sensation was overwhelming, alien, and completely contrary to everything the hegemony had taught him about strength and dominance. What is this?" whispered, his reality-shaping weapons falling from nerveless hands. "This is why humans never surrender," Tommy explained gently. "We don't fight to prove we're strong. We fight because surrender means the people we love suffer." The dimensional arena stabilized around them, its chaotic energy patterns settling into harmony configurations that the ship's sensors couldn't classify. stood motionless, his consciousness struggling to process emotional experiences that 3 centuries of warfare hadn't prepared him for. "I yield," announced, his voice carrying wonder rather than defeat. "I have never encountered an opponent who made victory feel like failure." Admiral stood in stunned silence as displays confirmed the impossible. 5 honor guards, the finest warriors in hegemony history, had been defeated by humans who possessed no advantages except the refusal to accept defeat. "How?" he whispered, his 4 hands trembling with the shock of empire-defining defeat. "Your champions fought for glory," the Guardian explained, its voice carrying satisfaction that resonated through quantum dimensions. "Mine fought for survival. When everything you love faces extinction, impossible becomes merely difficult." The hegemony ship's communication systems activated, broadcasting to every vessel in the fleet. For the first time in their species' history, they faced a civilization that had proven superior in formal combat. "Attention, Hegemony Command," Admiral transmitted with voice heavy with historic significance. "First contact with species designation, human, has concluded. Combat trials have determined human tactical supremacy. Request immediate conference with High Command regarding treaty negotiations." Across Earth, celebration erupted as news of victory reached every continent simultaneously. Humanity had faced its first galactic challenge and emerged not just victorious, but respected. But the Guardian's ancient eyes held knowledge of challenges yet to come. Victory against the hegemony would announce humanity's presence to civilizations that made the current threat seem insignificant. "Congratulations," the Guardian told the 5 champions as they gathered in the ship's central chamber. "You have proven that humans deserve to survive among the stars, but this victory is not an ending, it's a beginning." "Beginning of what?" Jake asked, his tactical mind already processing implications that stretched beyond single battles. "The beginning of humanity's true test," the Guardian replied gravely. "Word of today's victory will reach every empire in the galaxy. Some will want to ally with the species that defeated the hegemony. Others will see you as a threat to be eliminated before you grow stronger." Absorbed this information with the calm acceptance that had guided her through impossible combat. "So we've traded one challenge for many larger ones." "Yes," the Guardian confirmed. "But you've also gained something invaluable, proof that humans can achieve victory when victory seems impossible. That knowledge will sustain you through the battles ahead." Tommy looked toward the viewport showing Earth hanging blue and perfect against the cosmic darkness. "Our planet's not ready for galactic warfare." "No," the Guardian agreed. "But your species has something more important than readiness. You have the ability to grow stronger through adversity. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when humans decide that something is worth fighting for." Admiral approached the group with the formal bearing of military protocol, but his eyes carried respect that hadn't existed hours earlier. "Champions of Earth, the hegemony fleet withdraws with honor intact on both sides. But I must warn you, our empire was merely the first test. Others will come who make our forces seem insignificant." "Let them come," Maria replied with a tactical confidence that had redefined galactic warfare. "Humans have been surviving impossible odds since we learned to walk upright. We're just getting started." The hegemony fleet began its withdrawal with ceremonial precision that honored Earth's unexpected victory. Massive ships that had conquered star systems rotated in perfect formation, their departure creating energy signatures that would be detected across half the galaxy. Admiral stood in his command chamber, transmitting reports that would forever change galactic politics. "High Command, this is Admiral reporting conclusion of First Contact Protocol with species designation, human. Combat trials resulted in complete tactical defeat of Honor Guard units. Recommend immediate elevation of threat assessment and diplomatic priority." The response from Hegemony High Command carried disbelief that resonated across quantum communication channels. "Admiral, please confirm transmission. No Honor Guard unit has been defeated in 7 centuries. Are you reporting equipment failure?" "Negative, High Command. Honor Guards performed at optimal capability. Human champions achieved victory through tactical innovation and spiritual superiority that our combat doctrine doesn't account for. Recommend complete revision of engagement protocols for future contact." Aboard the Guardian's observation deck, The 5 human champions watched their planet grow larger as shuttles carried them home. Each warrior had been forever changed by combat that pushed human capability beyond every previous limit. "The knowledge is still there," Jake observed, touching his temple where impossible tactical information remained perfectly accessible. "I understand weapon systems that won't be invented for centuries, but more than that, I understand something about what humans can become." Meditated on experiences that had redefined her understanding of combat itself. The enemy wasn't evil. Their warriors fought with honor according to their traditions, but they'd forgotten something important about the nature of strength. "They confused domination with protection," added quietly. "Their empire grew so powerful they stopped remembering why power matters in the first place." Maria studied tactical displays that showed hegemony ship movements with respect approaching reverence. "They're not retreating in defeat. They're withdrawing because they recognize our legitimacy. That's something entirely different." Tommy remained silent, his spiritual senses detecting changes in Earth's quantum signature that indicated something fundamental had shifted in humanity's relationship with the cosmos. The Guardian's ancient voice carried satisfaction mixed with concern as it addressed the champions. "Your victory today echoes across dimensions that connect all intelligent life, but with recognition comes responsibility. Earth is no longer an isolated world. You are now part of a galactic community that includes threats you cannot yet imagine." Doctor continued monitoring energy readings from her research station, documenting phenomena that would occupy for generations. "The quantum signature changes began the moment the first combat concluded," she reported to Joint Chiefs. "It's as if Earth itself has been upgraded somehow." "Upgraded how?" General demanded. "The gravitational resonance patterns match theoretical models for faster-than-light communication networks. Earth is now connected to galactic information systems that we didn't know existed." President Carter received updates that required completely new protocols for interstellar diplomacy. "Mr. President, we've received 47 different first contact requests in the past 6 hours," Secretary Williams reported. "Species we'd never heard of are requesting formal diplomatic relations." "And the threats?" "Intelligence suggests at least 12 different empires are evaluating humanity as a potential threat to galactic stability. Our victory against the hegemony demonstrated capabilities that some civilizations find concerning." The Guardian materialized in the Oval Office through methods that temporarily confused every security system in Washington. "Mr. President, your species faces choices that will determine humanity's role among the stars for to come." Secret Service agents reached for weapons before recognizing the being that had made human victory possible. President Carter gestured for calm, understanding that normal protocols had become meaningless. "Guardian, we're honored by your presence. What choices do you mean?" "Some species will offer alliance based on respect for your demonstrated capabilities. Others will demand submission based on fear of your potential. A few will attempt preemptive elimination because they cannot tolerate equals." "And your recommendation?" "Prepare for war while hopping for peace. Your champions proved that humans possess something unique among galactic civilizations, the ability to achieve victory through adaptation rather than domination. But that same quality makes you either valuable allies or dangerous enemies." Across the galaxy, emergency sessions convened in capitals that ruled star systems, pocket dimensions, and energy constructs that served as bodies for civilizations beyond human comprehension. In the crystalline halls of the ethereal collective, beings of pure consciousness debated humanity's significance with computational speeds that processed of possibility in microseconds. The humans achieved victory through emotional resonance patterns we classified as impossible, the Prime Ethereal observed. They weaponized hope, courage, and protective instinct in ways our logic matrices cannot process. "Dangerous precedent," another consciousness replied. "If lesser species learn that emotional authenticity can overcome technological superiority, our dominion becomes vulnerable." Or, a third voice interjected, "We learn from their example and strengthen our civilization through understanding rather than subjugation." Within the mechanical fortress worlds of the quantum assembly, artificial intelligences calculated threat assessments that produced results requiring new mathematical frameworks. Human tactical adaptation exceeds all predictive modeling, Assembly Corps reported to its constituent minds. They demonstrate capabilities that suggest evolutionary potential beyond our projections. Recommended response, secondary processing inquired. Unknown, first contact protocols assume logical response patterns. Humans consistently choose options that logic defines as suboptimal yet achieve superior results. We require new programming paradigms to interact safely. In dimensions where thought became reality and will shaped matter, the Ancient Ones stirred for the first time in eons. These beings had ruled the galaxy when current civilizations existed only as quantum possibilities, and their attention carried weight that could alter the fundamental structure of space-time. Young species, the first ancient observed with communication that rippled across dimensional boundaries. Yet they demonstrate growth patterns we have not witnessed since our own ascension. Threat assessment, the second ancient inquired. Uncertain. Their power comes not from technology or ancient knowledge, but from something we abandoned long ago, the willingness to risk everything for principles beyond personal survival. Shall we intervene? No, let them grow. If they survive what comes next, they may teach the galaxy something worth learning. Back on Earth, the 5 champions gathered at a secure facility where military leaders attempted to understand what humanity had gained and lost through galactic contact. The tactical knowledge remains perfectly accessible, Jake reported during debriefing. I understand weapon systems, ship designs, and combat strategies for dozens of species we haven't met yet, but I also understand something more important. Which is, we're not alone anymore, and that changes everything. Every decision humanity makes from now on affects our relationship with civilizations that could either preserve or eliminate our species. This report focused on spiritual implications that challenged every assumption about humanity's cosmic significance. Combat revealed that different species possess different types of strength: physical power, technological advancement, quantum consciousness, reality manipulation, all valid approaches, but humans possess something unique. What? The ability to find strength in unity while maintaining individual identity. Most galactic civilizations achieve power through conformity or domination. We achieve it through cooperation between diverse capabilities. This analysis addressed strategic implications that would guide humanity's military development for generations. The hegemony withdraws with respect, but they've transmitted our capabilities to their entire empire. Every species with access to their intelligence networks now knows that humans can defeat superior technology through adaptive tactics. Meaning, we're famous, and in galactic politics, fame is as dangerous as anonymity. We'll face challenges from civilizations seeking to test themselves against the species that defeated the hegemony. Maria's report outlined diplomatic complexities that required new approaches to international relations. 47 species have requested formal contact, but initial analysis suggests 3 distinct categories of motivation: genuine alliance interest, strategic positioning for advantage, and reconnaissance for future conflict. How do we tell the difference? We probably can't until they reveal their true intentions. The Guardian warned us that galactic diplomacy operates on timescales and through methods that human experience can't prepare us for. Tommy's debriefing addressed questions that reached beyond military and diplomatic concerns into the fundamental nature of humanity's cosmic role. The arena responded to something beyond individual capability, he reported quietly. During the final battle, I felt connected to every human who has ever fought to protect something precious. The Guardian didn't give us new abilities. It awakened capabilities that were always part of who we are. Capabilities? The understanding that strength comes from having something worth protecting. Most galactic civilizations fight for dominance, resources, or survival. Humans fight for love. That makes us either very weak or very dangerous, depending on the circumstances. The Guardian appeared among them without technological assistance, its massive presence somehow both comforting and sobering. Your analysis demonstrates wisdom that will serve you well in the challenges ahead. What challenges specifically? General asked directly. Within one of your planetary rotations, you will receive a formal invitation to join the Galactic Council, an honor previously reserved for civilizations with technology centuries beyond your current development. Accepting grants you protection and resources that could advance human civilization by. And refusing declares your intention to develop independently, which some species will interpret as preparation for conquest. The Council invitation is actually a test. Accepting demonstrates wisdom and cooperation, while refusing suggests dangerous ambition. President Carter absorbed implications that would define humanity's future among the stars. And your recommendation? Accept the invitation, but negotiate from strength rather than gratitude. Your champions proved that humans deserve respect, not charity. Demand equal voice in council decisions and refuse any limitations on human development or expansion. Doctors' research revealed that Earth's quantum signature continued evolving in response to galactic contact. We're detecting new energy patterns that suggest our planet is being prepared for something. The changes are deliberate and beneficial, but they're happening without our input or understanding. Prepared for what? Unknown, but the energy signatures match theoretical models for ascension to higher dimensional existence, as if our victory triggered evolutionary changes that will fundamentally alter human capability. The Guardian's ancient eyes held knowledge that spanned cosmic ages. Your species stands at a threshold that few civilizations ever reach. You have proven yourselves worthy of galactic respect through combat prowess. Now you must prove yourselves worthy of cosmic responsibility through wisdom and restraint. Jake looked toward the stars that no longer seemed distant and unreachable. How much time do we have to prepare? Time is a luxury your species no longer possesses. The galaxy moves quickly when new powers emerge. Within your solar cycle, humanity will face choices that determine your role among the stars for the next millennium. And if we choose wrong, then the species that defeated the hegemony through courage and adaptation will serve as a cautionary tale about civilizations that grew too powerful too quickly for their own wisdom. This question cut to the heart of humanity's cosmic dilemma. Guardian, in your thousands of years of observation, what determines which species survive galactic contact and which are destroyed by it? The ability to remember who they were before they gained power, the Guardian replied simply. Civilizations that maintain their essential character while adapting to cosmic responsibility become pillars of galactic stability. Those that lose themselves in the pursuit of greater power become threats that require elimination. The five champions understood that their victory against the hegemony was merely the first step in a journey that would test humanity's worthiness to survive among entities that treated star systems as tactical resources. But they also understood something that would sustain them through the challenges ahead. They had proven that humans could achieve the impossible when fighting for something worth preserving. Earth hung blue and perfect against the cosmic darkness, now connected to civilizations that spanned galaxies and dimensions beyond human comprehension. The age of human isolation had ended. The age of human potential had begun. As the Guardian faded back into the forest that had hidden it for, its final words carried both warning and promise. Remember, champions of Earth, your greatest victories will come not from the power you gain, but from the humanity you retain while wielding it. The stars no longer seemed distant. They seemed like home humanity was finally ready to claim. But whether that home would be built through cooperation or conquered through conflict remained to be determined by choices that would echo across eternity itself. The challenge had been met. The greater test was about to begin. The Guardian smiled, the first expression of emotion it had shown since emerging from the forest. Humanity had passed its first test among the stars. Now the real adventure could begin. Earth's champions had won 3 consecutive victories against impossible odds. But the final battles would determine whether humanity truly deserved to stand among the stars as a free species. The battle for Earth's freedom had begun. Thing beyond their understanding. The Guardian stepped aboard the enemy ship, carrying with it the awakening power of a species that had never learned to surrender. The real challenge was about to begin.